spooky episode of LAOFC Weekly. Right here, we have Melissa McCarthy versus Michael Myers. Yeah, baby, yeah. So stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Yeah, that was a nice, smooth intro from me, right? Yeah, I'm not already on the plane to Arkansas right now. Anyway, welcome to LAOFC Weekly, episode 12. My apologies, I will say right off the bat, Stacey Lane Wilson was supposed to be on this episode with me and Jimmy O, but I made a little bit of a goof in scheduling, and let's just say I messed up the scheduling a little bit. That's all I'm going to say. But I have my good friend, my buddy, Jimmy O, with me from JoeBlow.com. Take it away. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, the blackest eyes. The devil's eyes. Yeah, I do have the devil's eyes. Hey, it's Jimmy O. I'm excited to be here. I've waited years for this movie to come out. I feel like I've been waiting, 40 years? I don't know.
40 years, yeah, exactly.
40 years.
Right. 40?
40. Let's wait.
40. 40.
Yes.
You were alive when this original one came out.
Yeah, I was.
I was not.
I know you weren't.
I know. I'm sorry to tell that. So there you go. There's a little bit of an age difference here.
Yeah.
So, welcome everyone to the show. It's going to be a spooky-filled episode. We're going to do a lot of horror throwbacks this week. The first thing that we start off with, of course, is our movie pick of the week. If you have not seen the show before, how this works is we have a Facebook group, and inside that Facebook group is a bunch of the members of the LA Online Film Critics Society. We vote on all the movies that are coming out this week. So, this week, there really was only one major release, which is Halloween. Mm-hmm. And then there was like all these smaller releases that are going to eventually get a wider release. But because they're in LA and they fall into our opening schedule here, we vote on them. So some of the movies I just want to toss out real quick that this went up against was mid-90s, What They Had, and Can You Ever Forgive Me? Mm-hmm. Now, Can You Ever Forgive Me is the Melissa McCarthy movie, and it's probably the runner-up, I would say, this week, where I think it's gotten a lot of love from the members of our organization. A lot of people, including yourself, have not seen this movie yet.
I've missed it.
So I just want to say that this movie was very close to winning, but in the end, Mr. Mike Myers stole the show, and Laurie Strode is screaming right now as we announce this movie as our movie pick of the week. So congratulations to Blumhouse, Universal, Jamie Lee Curtis, everyone over there. Congratulations. So, Jimmy, you are so pumped about this movie.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about the plot, and then tell me your initial thoughts.
Well, okay, of course, it's 40 years after the original. This is a direct sequel to the original film, so there are definitely hints to the other films. There are definitely, and I don't want to give any away. See for yourself. I don't want to tell too much, honestly, about this movie. I want people to experience it, but I will say that they keep it pretty simple. This is a basic story, much like the original. Psycho terrorizes a small town, but it's done in such an inventive and original way that I think it's definitely one of the best horror sequels I've ever seen.
I would agree with you. I think we were talking about this on the show I did earlier. Mm-hmm. I think the initial reaction from this movie out of TIFF was I want to say that I think it was a little bit too high, because I think it was like people were coming out of it saying 10 out of 10. It's an absolute masterpiece. I don't think if you look at the film from that standpoint, I don't think it's groundbreaking horror. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it as a horror sequel, it's one of the best that we've seen.
The 11th Halloween film.
Yes.
And the irony, I interviewed Jason Blum about it, and he made the great distinction. Only 2 of those movies are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, the original and this one. And this is officially certified fresh. So,
right.
Yeah, and I love horror movies, and I even love the crappy sequels because they're just Halloween. I love this character. I love everything about Haddonfield and Laurie Strode. But it's so nice to see filmmakers to take this material seriously and not just do, okay, let's do a TNA, gore fest. Let's do a smart movie. Let's actually try to have characters that we give a damn about. And that's what made the original such a good movie. I actually cared about Annie, Linda, and Lori. I liked them, all of them. So here, it's the same thing. I like these characters. I really like them. And Jamie Lee Curtis, man.
I know. She's still killing it.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Our friend Dimitri at Meet the Movie Press was mentioning that this portrayal of Laurie Strode was very similar to Riley in Aliens.
Ripley.
Ripley. Sorry, Ripley.
You are definitely on a plane.
I know. Yeah, I am definitely on a plane. And also Terminator 2.
Yeah, Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
I know. It's like I should have probably been like, no, not today, but I'm doing the show because I love it and care about it. So excuse me.
I'm glad you did.
I'm in Arkansas right now mentally. But I did want to say that what I loved about this film was the female dynamic between the three female characters.
Absolutely.
You have the three generations here, and I just think that it's an incredible film for this time period that we're in right now. We're talking about like the Me Too movement and Time's Up, and to kind of see these three women at the forefront of this story, it's so great. And, kind of in a weird way, almost going up against the man,
Yeah,
and it's really just some incredible, powerful stuff that I'm just so happy that, Blumhouse and David Gordon Green was able to bring to life. And John Carpenter, signing off on this movie, being back, as executive producer and, approving everything. I think that shows that he actually really loved this movie and
really
believed in it.
And let's talk about the score.
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about. We all know the score. We just, it's that little kind of. It sends a chill down my spine every time I hear the score. But in this, it's expanded just a little bit, and don't be afraid of that. There's one scene in particular, and I don't want to say the scene. I don't even want to say what happens. Again, I want people to go see this and enjoy it. But they change the score up a bit, and it becomes something even more, I don't know, horrifying. It's just chilling. I loved this score. It felt like an extension. The whole film feels like an extension of the first film. It feels like a companion piece. It's one of those things. I'm like, we've gone so many directions with this franchise, but I guarantee you, every Halloween I will be watching this, and I will be watching the original in order. And I will be a happy camper.
Well, I think this movie, we were talking about the box office already. It's doing 7.7 million in previews on a Thursday night,
which is amazing.
It's pretty amazing, and this just has nowhere to go but up. And for the next, I want to say 3 weeks, because them releasing it a couple weeks before Halloween, leading into that season. There's something that I think studios really misjudge. Sometimes they put movies out too close to the holidays, like certain holidays, and it doesn't do well.
Because then you have that one weekend. That's it.
But with this, they have so much legs that they can go on.
Hey, look, you have so much going for it. It's the 40th anniversary.
Yes.
It's bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis. Nick Castle is back in a little cameo. You have obviously there's references to the earlier films. It's just this is a no-brainer. This is going to be. People are predicting. I've heard 80 million.
Yes.
I think more.
Yeah,
I think more. I honestly do. I think we're looking at 90 million opening. That's what I'm thinking. Just because it's the right time for it. This is simply the right time for this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter, these guys knew what they were doing, and they took the care to do it.
Yeah. Without going into too much spoiler territory, because we don't want to spoil this for people who didn't see this. One of my favorite scenes in this film is the babysitter sequence. And especially because of that little boy who was in that scene, how hilarious he was. It's very interesting to me about this film, and I'm sorry, it's like everything, we were talking about this movie nonstop since 9 o'clock this morning.
Pretty much.
So it's like I've been talking to Anthony, our showrunner here, and everyone else, and it's funny because this movie does something, what I think, going back to the female story aspect of it, all the female characters in this movie are so incredibly smart.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to see that. And I think it's so rewarding. And it touches a little bit about like what Blum said yesterday and then retracted last night. He knows what to do, and he's going to highlight these women. And I think that's so important. But I think going back to this movie in terms of it being fan service to a certain degree, but then also having enough original content to make it for new fans. And I think that is such an important fine line that this movie walks. Because that in the original Halloween, the thing that we wanted to see was Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. That's what we wanted. And this movie delivers on that. But then it gives these other characters a whole new introduction, and that's for a whole new generation to enjoy.
Yes.
It's like a passing of the knife, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I love the little... again, it's so hard to... I want to talk. I want to say, that one scene.
Yeah.
He makes references to certain things in the original film with a twist.
Yes.
And it's lovely, and it's fun, and it keeps the audience who's grown up watching this movie, which is pretty much every horror film fanatic ever, whether they're 5 to 500 or whatever.
I agree.
Not a lot of people are 500 years old, but there's something about that.
Soon.
Yeah, soon we will be. But
Science.
there's something about that and it just feels like the holiday. It feels like Halloween. It honestly, it feels more like the original Halloween to me than every other sequel they've had. And I have my appreciation for 4. I have my appreciation for H2O. I even kind of like the Rob Zombie films on occasion.
Yeah?
Occasion, yeah.
That's interesting. Even
not
the
all
second one?
Weirdly enough, I actually prefer the second one now because it's so batshit insane that you're just like, okay, this is weird, but I kind of enjoy it. I was never a real fan of what they did to Laurie Strode in those movies. Not because the actress, of course, she was fine. I didn't like the direction they took her because, it was nice to see Laurie again.
Yeah.
Like really,
the one you remember.
The one you remember, which makes sense. It didn't feel like H2O felt fine, and I loved H2O. I really did. But it felt like a different Laurie. This one feels like Laurie to me. And maybe it's the Sarah Connor Ripley approach. There's something really intrinsically exciting to watch, and it's special about this movie. It's just so much fun, and still a good movie, not just a slasher dasher. We made a good slasher movie. It's a smart movie. I think people who are not fans of horror in general, I think they will even like it.
Kind of speaking on this point, and we're doing a whole horror themed episode minus the best director category at the end, but horror has really kind of like grown a lot over the last couple of years. Kind of talking about what you said, is that people who normally would not see a horror movie have now gone see movies like this. They have went in to see movies like The Quiet Place and Hereditary and this. Whether you like some of those movies or you don't, Get Out. Just it follows. Like there's just been so many movies over the last like 4 to 5 years that have changed the game for horror movies, where people are like normally like, I'm not seeing that scary. And it's working. This genre is becoming the most sought after genre. And
today. One of the smartest.
Yes.
I think it started with the Babadook.
Yes,
I think it really
Babadook,
started with
right.
that. And look, I'm an old school 80s slasher fan. I loved those. I loved going to the video store and looking at all the boxes and renting those and being like, oh, this is so twisted and stupid and awesome. But that was always my favorite time, my favorite decade for horror, basically the late 70s to even early 70s to the early 80s. This is becoming another favorite for me. I mean, we used to have maybe 1 or 2 really, really great horror movies if we were lucky a year.
Yes.
If we were lucky. Now we're having numerous. And it's whether it's on the small screen, whether it's VOD, whether it's TV movies, or TV series that are horror based, we're seeing something really special. And it's exciting as a horror fan. It excites me a lot to see this.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing, and I think what Hollywood needs to learn from this, and I will say this, is that the budgets are always correct.
Yeah.
So the reason why horror movies work so well, not only because they're smart, but the budget is in check. There's not this, oh my God, let's risk 150 to 200 million. It's like 20 to 40 million, and that's it. And
some less than that. I mean,
a
you're
lot.
looking at 5 million movies.
I mean, Blum has the perfect thing with that. It's literally like he had a formula for 5 million and under for a very long period of time. And then now because he's so successful, he takes some more risks and makes bigger budgets. But at the same time, he knew that, like, you know what? 5 million is a perfect budget.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a smart producer. And whether you like all his films or not, they make money.
He's hit or
they
miss.
all make money.
Yeah,
almost all of them make money. And he knows how to build things up. I mean, they were also part of Upgrade.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies of the year. So it's one of those things that I think if you understand the nature, some of the best horror films I've ever seen are always these low budget movies. Like you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which costs very little to make, and you're just it makes your skin crawl. Halloween, Blair Witch Project. These are really interesting ideas, and whether you don't need a horror movie to be all complicated, and you need a simple story that's well told.
Yeah.
And you need characters that you can give a crap about.
That's what the problem is for a period of time, I think, especially throughout the early 2000s. We had so many horror movies where the characters were dumb. And everyone...
Ridiculously dumb.
Yeah, and you just...
Even in the 90s, I think that...
I can't even think of really any standout horror movies in the 2000s.
I mean,
can you think of any?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a few that I really liked. I loved. I think when did the Descent come out? It was fantastic.
Oh, that was really indie though. Yeah, that was at Sundance.
I loved Saw. I love the original Saw.
Saw.
I would even say I loved like half of the Saw movies quite a bit. So you had those. You had High Tension, which I know was somewhat controversial.
Another small one.
I love that movie.
But I'm talking about more of the studio release ones.
Yeah,
I can't think of a single.
No, there were, because it was because Lionsgate wasn't what it was.
No,
back then.
No,
Saw
kind of made Lionsgate. I feel like
absolutely it did.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So continuing on this, we're gonna switch gears over to indie, even though we already started switch gears. And this is gonna be a little bit different because Jimmy's gonna talk about something that's on Netflix that you may have heard of, and I'm going to talk about a film that shook me to the core. Back in the day, which was the Blair Witch Project. And I remember when this movie came out and the marketing campaign, you look back at the marketing campaign of this movie, how brilliant it was. They had this set up like it was a true story, that this was just some found footage that they...
Wait, it wasn't true?
No, it was not. No, it was not. Darn, I know. Sad panda, this whole time. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Since 1999,
you
were doing all that research. I know you had that whole filing cabinet full of
those things, the crime things on my wall, like figuring it out. I thought I'd crack the case, man.
But it was I just remember like they had the website, and then, like you came there, it was like missing, and it's just like it was just incredible. And you're talking about this movie that came out at Sundance Film Festival, and it took the world by storm. People were like so afraid of going camping, going into the woods after this movie. I mean, God, I'm sure Middle America was like pissed because like, no one's coming here anymore to go camping. But yeah, this movie was just incredible. And I mean, in black and white, the way that it was told, I know over the years people, have a love-hate relationship with this film because, it's not as well constructed, but you got to remember, it was the first of its kind.
Oh, there were others like it, but that was the first one that really, because the last broadcast I think was the year before.
Yeah.
I believe it was a year before or something like that.
But this was the first one that set the ground for like things like Paranormal Activity and Saw, all these types of movies. And it's just the idea. It just messes with your head. Just to think that you are in a woods and you just keep going in a circle and you see these stick figures and you don't know what's there. And I mean, let's be honest. The woods is a very scary place at night with the crickets and with the animals and with the the insects, everything. It's creepy. So I just want to throw back to that one.
It's a great one, and it's one of my favorites. As I mentioned, because I love a horror movie that it doesn't have to be perfect. A horror movie has to have something special, whether it's the right atmosphere, the right characters, the right actors, the right director, and you get a few of those together. You had this great trio of leads who are just interesting, not always likable, which I liked because they seem like real people that you'd be like, dude, shut up,
Yeah.
use your brain,
Right.
But we all do stupid things. I mean, if we were really in a horror movie, we'd probably all make terrible mistakes.
Right, which is always kind of funny because when we watch horror movies, we're always the first to yell at them, like, that's so stupid.
Don't do that.
But it's like, kind of like you're watching that. Like, what would you do in that situation, you know, in the moment? Like, you're not thinking like that. You're not thinking outside the box.
No.
When you're in the moment, when someone's at the door going to kill you. Like, you're not thinking like that.
No, you're not thinking straight.
Yeah,
no. I mean, not that but I've never been chased by a killer.
Right. But what was your pick for this?
Now, I was really debating what I wanted to do because I really wanted to spotlight an indie horror film, and I couldn't really think of anything that really excited me right now. But I've been and I'm a little late to the party. I've been recently involved in The Haunting of Hill House. Now, a little history. The Haunting, the Robert Wise film, is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is a absolutely perfect horror film. The sound design, the house, the dialogue, the performances, all of it. I was lucky enough to take a class and got to meet Robert Wise and talk about. There's a great story he told me where originally the Theo character wrote "I hate you" to her lover on the window as this woman takes off, and it was so like. Well, they couldn't keep that in because at that time it was much too controversial to talk about that. The series takes these characters in a unique way. They're not the same, but they have the same names. They have the same kind of issues, I guess you could say, and has recreated this story by taking bits of dialogue. There's "no one ever goes here after at night," or all these great lines from the movie, and made a complete, compelling family drama. And this is, now, again, I'm not all the way through. I'm getting there, but every episode has this moment where you get chills. And the first episode, you introduce these characters and you start to like it. It's fine. It's nothing. It didn't blow me away. But the ending just capped me, and it was instant. It was instant. Now I need to watch every single one, and I'm curious as to where they're going to go with it. I don't know. I don't know how far they're kind of following the movie in a way, but not really. It's a very strange. It's very strange, but it's Mike Flanagan. He did this very well with Oculus too. He dealt with two different timelines. I think it's just two right now, at least, and he did it in such a easy way. And you don't get confused. You're not like, wait, who's this character? He has these great talented actors playing these amazing roles. And telling the story of The Haunting of Hill House in a beautiful, smart, and genuinely scary way. Genuinely.
I can't wait to watch this show. I mean, it's funny because the trailer, for me, in my opinion, didn't do this show any justice. Because I watched it, and I was like, it looks fine. And it didn't sell me. And then all of a sudden, everyone started watching this.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, all these rave reviews.
It's a word of mouth thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the trailer didn't blow me away.
Which is what, Netflix does so incredibly well. And especially, again, going back to their series. They don't have this yet with their films. I mean, they had a few decent hits this year with their movies, like Set It Up. And I think Roma's going to do very well for the festival crowd.
Sure.
Just for the festival crowd and the critics. I don't know how well it's going to do for the general public. But with their series is that I noticed that you don't want to hit stop when it goes into the next episode. You want to keep going. And I've noticed that over and over again with multiple shows that I watch, whether it's like Glow, whether it's Atypical, there's something about it that just hooks you, and you just want to keep watching and keep going and going. And that's why they are the very definition of the king or queen, whatever way you want to put it, of the binge watch.
Yeah.
They are the king and queen
together
of the binge watch.
Absolutely. I mean, I know other stations are getting there.
Yeah.
Like Amazon
Hulu's
Prime's got some good stuff. They're there.
But they have like one. Like, I mean, Amazon has The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is a fantastic show. And then Hulu had Casual, which I loved. But there's so few and far between.
Yeah, it's
Netflix
not like Netflix.
Is so good at that. with their, and I don't know why they're so concerned about the film aspect. I mean, it's still something that's very puzzling to me because they have that so much on lockdown with like The Queen, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. Like there's just, Stranger Things, you just keep going and going and going. Like, don't worry about the movies right now.
no.
Don't worry about it.
Keep the
It's
series
okay.
going.
Just
Keep
the
it
series
working.
going.
Keep it
People are
working.
subscribing for that. Plus, it's longer. And
Yeah.
people are going to want to come back and you can merchandise the hell out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
so-
And don't forget Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
I
Kimmy
know,
Schmidt. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Not a horror thing, but you know, hey.
No, I know. But yeah, I want to check that show out. I'm not going to be able to do
Definitely
it for
do.
a couple weeks, but I definitely want to check it out.
Now,
so
the
maybe
beauty
in
of
time for
Netflix, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going anywhere, at least for a while, hopefully.
I also wanted to know, Netflix has not, they announced it so quickly after the original airing. The OA, have you seen that show?
No, I haven't.
It's a Britt Marling show, very like, it's a slow burn type show. It's very indie, but I loved it. And they announced that there was going to be a season 2, like, I want to say 2 years ago, and it's still not here yet. So I don't know what's going on with
Oh,
that.
no, that's too bad.
All right, so switching over to retro real quick. You have something that I have not seen either. So he's going for it this week. Everything that I have not seen. What is
Okay.
it?
Well, we're talking Halloween. We're
Yes.
talking John Carpenter. I think John Carpenter, one of his most underrated and one of my favorite films is Prince of Darkness. This is a strange movie. It has an amazing score. It has Alice Cooper. It has Donald Pleasance. It has Lisa Blount. It has Jameson Parker from that old show. I don't even remember, Parker and Parker or whatever. I don't even remember. It's this. They find this kind of weird vault in this church with this just liquid that they don't know what it is, and so they start to investigate what this goo or whatever this thing is in this old church. Things start to happen. And I don't want to give it away to you because you guys have probably seen this. What Carpenter does especially well is suspense. You can get gory, and this movie it's certainly gorier than Halloween. I think it was one of his, when he was starting with The Thing, and he was getting a little more gory. There's a couple of really gruesome scenes in this, but again, it's this kind of idea of this weird possession, this weird satanic idea, Prince of Darkness, or this religious imagery, and it kind of twisted around. And I can honestly say it's one of the few movies that has given me nightmares.
Really?
Yeah, there's a whole an introduction, a dream sequence in the film that I should play it for you later. It's on the soundtrack. It's actually brilliant, where it's creepy. And you don't know why. You don't know what it is. It's nothing special. It's nothing fancy. Just a weird camera moving, and you see this image, and you hear this voice. It's such a creepy idea, and that still haunts me to this day. I can still hear that voice. I can still see that image, and I would have nightmares of that.
So, question for you:
Okay.
would you like to see this remade?
No, I don't think it needs to be. You know what I'd like to see is a sequel.
Sequel?
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing because I think there's definitely another story about it. But yeah, I kind of miss the days when not everything had a sequel.
I know.
I miss that. I mean, we're far from that. It's not going to change. I mean, we're in an age where it is if it's made, it's going to be remade probably. Fast and Furious will probably be made in like 40 years. I mean, it's just where we are. Once they need to reboot it. I mean, technically the new, the
spin-off one?
Yeah, the spin-off. So we're in that age. I love the whole vibe of the hairdos. It looks like an 80s movie. It feels like, I think it was 80s, late 80s. There's something about it. I like the essence. It doesn't feel like a new movie. It feels old. But it's, you know what? Scares and suspense don't age.
Yeah.
A good suspenseful scene doesn't age. And there are several in this movie where it's that trademark score of his, and it's that trademark to slow, oh my God, okay, get in the window, and you're wanting to scream at the screen to tell them to do something. Yeah, honestly, it's one of my favorites of his, and it saddens me it's not more respected. I think it's getting there, though. It got a really nice release on, of course, I think Scream Factory.
Yes.
You
who does such wonderful work with horror movies.
Probably my favorite video company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I every time they release something, I'm like, I've wanted to see that again, like a good quality, forever, because I rented it on video and it had lines and it was garbage and you just did dark and crappy and it broke and you're terrible. It was like, but this one, it's like they're releasing these classic movies, at least classic in genre, and giving them new life and showing the younger fans, hey, there's some good stuff out there. Kind of bringing the video store back a little bit with these.
I agree. I agree. I like it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you were mentioning one of the scariest films. I mean, I know this is a cliched answer, but I do have to say there's two movies that really scared me as a kid. Mm-hmm. The first is, of course, the obvious, The Exorcist, which I am so thankful that Hollywood has not. I mean, they've made so many different types of exorcism movies.
They've technically remade it.
Right, they've technically remade it, but they've never tried to make that one beat by beat like freaking Psycho or Poltergeist. But like, The Exorcist is still to this day so creepy, and it's really good. The other one, going way, way back, is The Birds.
Okay, yeah.
Just because of, you watch that movie now, everything looks fake as hell. But it's just that idea of just the birds. I mean, I remember going to the beach as a kid, and I would just, every time I saw a seagull, I would just cover my head. Like, I would just, my wife is actually still scared of birds. She's like, I hate birds, get them away.
Yeah, well.
And it's just like, it's a weird vibe that movie was able to scare so many people from going to the beach, or same way that Jaws did it. Like, it's just like something that you just look at, oh, pretty bird, and it's like, no.
Well, the thing, I'm going to actually bring up an interesting point, because you talk The Exorcist.
Yes.
I love The Exorcist. It's a fantastic film. Didn't scare me one bit.
No.
Not a single bit. Not a single one.
Speaking of which, I want, real quick, when we're on The Exorcist, do you remember the parody movie with Leslie Nielsen?
Repossessed. Of course.
Where Linda Blair actually played the character?
Yeah.
Wasn't that crazy?
Oh, it was awesome.
It was awesome. First time that's ever happened where a parody act, they made a parody of an actual really big movie where the actual actress played in the movie. No one remembers that movie except for you. I love it.
It was funny.
Yeah. But sorry.
What I mean by that is like, sometimes scary is kind of to the person. I'm not going to be scared by the same things you are,
right?
And so when I watched and I saw it very young, I was kind of like, oh, it's good. It's kind of weird and gross, like the pea soup thing, but it didn't really affect me it certainly didn't give me nightmares. Certainly didn't give me any kind of. I didn't feel anything on that level, but I still respected it. You could still tell it's a great movie. As an adult, rewatching it, it scared me more as like a parent, oh my gosh, it broke my heart. I think I had watched it again after my father passed away, and it was like, on an emotional level, It was chilling. So but not every movie has to be like, blah, scare you. That's not, horror is there's so many types of horror out there that sometimes you go just to get a chill. Sometimes you go for the atmosphere. Sometimes you just want to have a fun time and see something like Repossessed, or Student Bodies is one of my favorites. Yeah. Oh, my Student Bodies.
Yeah,
it's horrible, but I love it.
I actually forgot that the one I wanted to talk about for indie was not the one that I talked about, so I might just move that back. I want to talk about Tragedy Girls for my indie movie. So did you see Tragedy Girls?
I have not yet.
Oh, it's so freaking good.
I hear this.
It is Brianna Hilbrand is in it, and it is just this fantastic. Tyler McIntyre, I think, is the director. It is just a well-made social satire that has horror elements, and it has like Craig Robinson in it, and it's just about these two girls who are obsessed with social media, and they just, in order to kind of become popular on Twitter, they go around and they make up this hashtag Tragedy Girls, and they go around and they wind up killing people and trying to make it seem like it's not them and it's other people. And it's so freaking brilliant.
Sounds a little bit like the Heathers, the original Heathers.
Yes,
not that crappy TV show.
A lot of people compare it to Heathers. But yeah, I love that movie. I feel like it has not gotten a lot of love. It's a cult classic now, I think, but I recommend it a lot.
I'll check that out. That sounds like my type
I definitely
of thing.
do. The other one I was going to talk about was Scream, of course.
Of course.
Because Scream is just Wes Craven. Another one that it's funny. I relate a lot to movies. We were talking about horror movies that we relate to. I love ones where I see where I can kind of relate to the characters, or I can relate to the time period that the movie set in. Scream I watched, of course, when I was in middle school, and that whole thing about going over a friend's house and parties and having the movie guy like Jamie Kennedy as the movie guy who always can tell you about the movies, and just never seeing Nev Campbell really before in a film, and how this movie really launched her career. This was just such a great throwback to like, it was almost like it was making fun of the horror genre, but also celebrating the horror genre while doing its whole new thing. And this is kind of an anomaly in a lot of ways, Scream, because, it went on to make 4 movies. It spun off into a MTV series. The first season did very well. The second season, not so much. And now there's even talk about remaking this. So, yes. But I know, it's like, give it some time, let it breathe a little bit. But I just remember that ghost face mask. And like another one, when you have a good movie, and I'm reserved myself to say this nowadays, but when they used to make parody movies off them. Because nowadays the parody movies are terrible. But back in the 80s and the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when they made a great horror movie or a great action movie, they always had a great parody movie that followed. Not the shit that they put out now.
No, gosh, no.
But yeah, I just remember that we did the Scary Movie franchise after this, and they beat that to the ground. But this was just an incredible film. I remember seeing Scream in the theater multiple times, and I was so excited when the sequels came out. It's
I
very
actually think
rare.
the sequel I love part 2. I think it has some of the scene in the car.
Yes,
is one of the best like suspense scenes I've ever seen. I love that scene. I love that movie. I love the first 2 movies quite a bit.
Except for that, we talk about stupidity in movies, right? How about Scream has the dumbest scene?
Oh, which one?
With Drew Barrymore trying to squeeze her boobs through the freaking doggy door. Like it's like your boobs are not even going to fit through that.
You're talking Rose McGowan.
Oh, sorry, Jesus. Drew Barrymore gets killed in the beginning.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there you
go. Yeah.
Arkansas guys. Arkansas.
Hey, we're talking about a lot of movies. I got to think back, too.
Yes.
But yeah, Rose McGowan. Like, it's kind of
I loved her in that, too. I absolutely love that character.
Watch that scene. You talk about a scene where you're like, come on. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Look, as a horror fan, we kind of have to find ourselves often saying, it's okay, it's a horror movie. Yeah, we'll believe it. Okay. That suspension of disbelief is very important for horror fans. It really is, because first of all, there's never ever going to be, that wouldn't ever happen. Scream 1 like that would never happen. You usually wouldn't drop a TV on someone's head or like just all these little things are like so ultra extreme. That's never going to happen.
But you see, in a movie like Final Destination, the first one, that movie was so effective to me because it felt like everything that would happen in that movie could happen somewhere.
Yeah, but still exaggerated. The sequels especially
the sequels were just ridiculous. But the first one, just like the idea that they could be arguing and a train could go by and then something could come out from the train and just like that felt very realistic.
Yeah, no.
Or
it's a good
like
movie.
even when you put your hand down like a freaking thing and it can turn
Why
on.
does every movie uses that? Even Halloween
I know. I just that was what was really scary. Like just the whole idea too about the airplane in the beginning of that. See, we're really getting sidetracked, but that's fine.
Yeah,
but
that's all right.
I mean, just the first Final Destination was so great because you start off with the airplane sequence. And I mean, that made me so afraid to go on airplanes because you're just like, you see that, it's like, then there's the whole scene. no one's going to take down this plane. You know, you have like the handicapped kid in there. You're like, no one's going to take down this plane. And then that happens. And then all the events play out. I don't know.
I got to give shout out to Devon Sawa, who was awesome in that movie. Devon, you rocked. You know you were awesome in that movie.
You remember Idle Hands?
I do. I loved it. I love it.
Idle Hands? Yeah.
I
remember.
Absolutely.
It's like throwback here.
Devon Sawa Love Fest now.
Yeah.
We're fans, man.
Yeah. That one, Jessica Alba, that was probably like one of the best things that Jessica Alba ever did.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah. What, beautiful, the eye didn't count?
The
eye?
No. She's a beautiful woman, but the movie selection has not been very good.
No. You think?
Yeah, I definitely think.
Okay.
And especially when she did those Dane Cook movies. Oh, yeah. I'm bringing those up.
Wow.
See, I know my shit.
That's
Even
horrific.
though I get a little screwed up thinking about where I'm going to go later.
That's
I know
all
a
good.
lot of my stuff.
You do. You know your stuff, man.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the 90s, it's funny. We were talking about like the 2000s, but in the 90s, I feel like that was almost like a renaissance, just like nowadays has become the horror renaissance.
To an extent, I wasn't as big of a fan in the 90s because you had a lot of really, really bad horror movies coming out that time. I mean, I'm trying to think of a couple of examples, but it never really connected with me like the slasher period.
But those
did.
were more for here. This is what I would say.
Go for it.
Teen horror movies, teen-based ones. You think about movies like Final Destination, Idle Hands,
sure.
Scream.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So not so much like the ones that are out now, where they have this broad appeal that people who are not fans of horror.
I know what you did last summer.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie.
Oh my god, yeah,
I
love
really
that too.
do.
I do too.
I did not so much. I still know what you did last summer.
I fell in love with Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Did you?
From that movie? Yeah.
I was actually okay. This is kind of embarrassing. I was kind of mad she lived. I was like, really? She lives? Sarah Michelle Gellar's way better. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
She should have lived. That was a great chase scene, though.
Yes, it was. And that had a great soundtrack, too. That was another thing about these movies. They had amazing soundtracks.
Oh, yeah. But my only issue with those movies, they were so polished and so, like, I missed the gritty cheesiness of those, the 80s. I just missed that. Until now. Now I'm happy. Now we're getting good movies again.
Because now you're getting, like, the perfect combination of, like, you have your art house movie, like Hereditary. Right, and Suspiria, which I know you really enjoyed.
I loved it.
Yeah, so those types of movies, and then you get movies like A Quiet Place that really, and Halloween, you know, just like movies that are very standard, but like at the same time really just work.
And they don't feel like I don't feel like they were copying a lot necessarily.
No.
I don't feel like we're seeing the same movie. I mean, yes, we have like and this is not a dig because I actually love these movies. We have the Conjuring universe, which, you know, for the most part is really good. Really good. Aside from the Annabelle, the first Annabelle. Now, The Nun was a little...
I still didn't see The Nun.
It's a little... It's more of a comedy. But look, I had a good time with it. It was entertaining. But, you know, even those movies are pretty smart, and they're generally better than a lot of movies that we've seen in the past. A lot of the cheesy ghost stories, and there is a lot of ghost stuff nowadays. There's a lot of ghost stuff, and there's a lot of bad ghost stuff. You know, like Wish Upon and stuff like that.
Oh, Wish Upon.
Oh my God.
Wish Upon.
Wow.
Poor Joey King. I feel bad.
She cannot win with these movies.
Oh, I told you know I want to go on record saying this on this show because I sit on Twitter and people were like blah blah blah. I love Joey King, and she was in this movie Summer of '03, which no one saw, but it was a great independent film.
No, it's a good movie.
I just want to say that she needs to step away from the horror genre
or change the horror movie she's making.
Because I mean, Wish Upon, she was in a Blumhouse movie that's not out yet called The Lie, which also was not very good. She was in Slender Man. She needs to be in better movies. She deserves better than that. But my God, like just the last couple of selections that she's done, like not good. Not good.
No,
sorry.
No, not at all. No. Not at all.
Moving on to our last thing, something you're probably not going to be able to chime in much about, but let's try to chime in a little bit.
I will.
So we do every week now because we're going into award season, and of course we are a critics organization. We talk about one of the categories for the upcoming award season. This week we're going to be talking about Best Director.
Perfect.
So I'm curious, off any list, doesn't matter, If you were part of the Academy, or now because you're part of our organization, if you can put in a couple names for Best Director, who would you put in?
Absolutely. There's been some really exciting visions and voices. I mean, I've been on record. I loved A Star Is Born, and I think it's a phenomenal film on every level. It felt like a movie that was a classic Hollywood story told in a kind of a gritty style. And yeah, Bradley Cooper. Honestly, I think he did a fantastic job with this movie. It doesn't feel like a typical romance. It doesn't feel schlocky, and he did it so well. I felt like I was there. I felt like I was watching this relationship kind of grow and then kind of crumble. Really, really powerful. I would also obviously Spike Lee, Black Klansman. I think that he did a marvelous job. I'm not always a big fan of his. It depends on the story of the project, but in general, I like his work. But that was a really solid film. That was a really good movie. There's a couple, those are two that I can think of like offhand that have really impressed me.
At the beginning of the year, there was talk that John Krasinski was going to be able to get it for A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Which, at the beginning of the year, I was definitely on board, and I think that he had a chance. But now, after seeing so many movies, I don't think he has a chance in hell, unfortunately.
It's a good movie year.
It is
It's a very good movie year. There's a lot of really interesting things out there. I haven't seen First Man yet.
Right.
But I've heard it's well directed.
Well directed.
Yeah.
Very well directed.
But I feel like it's going to be an interesting year. I think there's going to be a few shakeups though.
Yeah.
I think, but I would not be. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Alfonso Cuarón.
Yes.
In there. I hope he's one of the best directors working today.
Oh,
And,
he's right now. I think from the list that I've been reading online, he is definitely the front runner.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
everything, which is interesting because the way that I feel about movies, and we talked about this on the show when we did the whole criticism of that best popular film or whatever they were going to do.
Yeah.
Is that there is this natural disconnect with critics, with audiences, with award movies, because there are just certain movies where I feel like they don't speak to the mass appeal. Like it doesn't have mass appeal.
Absolutely.
And I think Roma, the second half of Roma is a masterpiece. The first half is very, very long. I appreciate it for what it is. It's very artsy. It's very beautiful. It's all about the culture, setting up the city, setting up these characters. But the average viewer watching Roma is not going to make it through that movie. They're gonna turn off.
Yeah.
And with that being said, Cuarón is such an incredible director.
God, he is.
And he has such vision, and his films are so different.
Every single one.
one.
He's done a children's movie with the Little Princess.
Yes.
He did Et tu Mama Tambien, which is one of the best coming-of-age movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
Gravity, Children of Men. I mean, this guy is an auteur. He's incredibly gifted, and I would love to see him get another one. Did he win for Gravity? I'm trying to remember. I don't
remember.
I don't think he did.
That movie had a lot of love, but I don't remember what it won.
Sorry, we're blanking out on this. Now I'm going to Arkansas. But honestly, here's the thing. I think there's a very, very, very strong possibility we are going to see Cooper get the award this year.
You think so?
Yes, because A Star Is Born is doing something that very few films can do. They find the critics love, and then they find the audience loves it. And they want to sell the show. They want to sell the Oscars. They want people to watch. So they're going to nominate people who are going to get people to watch. They're going to watch Bradley Cooper. And especially if him and Lady Gaga
They're going to watch Lady Gaga for sure.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So I honestly don't be surprised if he wins.
Haven't seen it last night. I know you haven't seen it yet. I think you're going sometime either today or next week, is Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, I can't wait.
If there wasn't the controversy with one of the directors, I feel like that would have got into this category as well.
I saw 35 minutes, I believe, of the film, and I was blown away.
Yeah.
I think that movie is going to get Rami is going to get the love for that.
Oh, Rami is definitely
he's fantastic.
I mean,
fantastic.
It's funny. I asked Ashley last night, when we got out of it because, right now, Bradley Cooper is one of the front runners for actor.
Yeah.
And I said to her, who do you think's better? And she said, I think Rami should get it because his performance requires a little bit more out of him. He has to transform. He has to become someone.
Except for Bradley Cooper sang and played guitar.
True story.
That's all I'm saying.
True story.
That's all I'm saying.
Hashtag fact.
Although here's the reality: neither of them will win. Robert Redford will win.
Oh,
His last film. Come on, it's politics, folks.
It's politics, folks.
It's politics. Yeah, he will. I would almost bet on that.
Really?
Not that I would do that right now, but yeah, I would almost bet on that.
It'll be interesting. I mean, that's for other people and directors right now. They're talking about Barry Jenkins with If Beale Street Could Talk, a movie that I thought was really good, but I think it's a little overhyped.
Okay,
just being honest. Ryan Coogler is still being named for Black Panther. Steve McQueen for Widows. Adam McKay for this movie Vice. Now, I'm a little concerned about Annapurna. Because of all the shakeup that happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you're right.
They're the only studio right now that doesn't have, unless I'm missing it, that doesn't have like their guild site up so we can go see award screenings.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of movies. They have Vice. They have the Destroyer movie that's coming out. They have Beale Street. And there's something else that they have. But it's just, they have a lot of stuff. They have a lot riding on this year. But I'm really worried that they're not going to be able to push their stuff the way that they
Yeah,
they
and
should.
that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do, and it is a popularity contest to a certain extent. So we're looking at and who hasn't won it? Who deserved it? Did he deserve it for this movie? No, not really. But he deserved it 5 years ago when he lost to the other guy that deserved it for another movie 5 years ago. That's kind of the way the Oscars are. So, and right now they are looking to broaden their audience because the ratings haven't been great.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see Black Panther get a lot of love. I wouldn't be surprised to see Star is Born. I think they're going to go for the more successful films.
This is what's going on this year too. I want to point out that one of the things that I was reading about award season right after TIFF was that Green Book, which is a film that I really enjoyed. But it's not your typical Oscar movie. It's a movie that deals with some serious issues, but it's very lighthearted. It feels like a buddy road trip comedy, almost like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, movies like that. Of course, it deals with race and stuff of that nature, but it's a very lighthearted movie. And I was very surprised that almost everyone was predicting that this was going to be nominated in multiple categories.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
But I think, like you're saying, is that if they want to go for that younger audience, if they want to go for people who care, this is the best year that they're gonna have that opportunity because you do have The Star is Born, you have Black Panther, you have
there are plenty of choices.
There's plenty of choices this year, and they have plenty of things to do with it. I just hope that there's a lot of really important films this year. I know the one that you and I disagree.
How about Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween?
For actress?
Yeah, I think she should.
You think so?
I would be happy to see that. I would love to see the Oscars reward genre.
Yeah.
And it is a great... And Toni Collette, though, seriously has a chance.
Oh, Toni Collette definitely has a chance.
Yeah, I would be shocked if she didn't get nominated.
Yeah, and Emily Blunt for Quiet Place was great, too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
They should just create a horror genre category for Best Actress, because,
horror's always been good to women.
Yeah,
it always has.
It really has.
There is the misogynist side. There is the kind of gross and like that part of it.
Well, we're moving away from that now, right?
We really are.
We're moving away from the typical boob shot and stuff like that. They're moving away from it.
Yeah.
So that is it for this episode. So yeah, that's it. It's over. Sorry. We went a full hour too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. Jimmy, where can they find you?
JoeBlow.com and ArrowInTheHead.com. Twitter, all those places as well. Jimmy to the O.
On the Twitter?
On the Twitter.
Do you like film Twitter? Never mind.
Crickets.
Crickets.
Sometimes.
Scott Menzel, We Live Entertainment. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at The Other Scott M. I will be in. I just want to do a shout out since we keep referencing this all episode. The reason why I'm about to get on an airplane right now to go to the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival in Arkansas. So I just want to give a shout out to the wonderful folks over there for inviting me. And I look forward to seeing 4 full days of documentary films and coming back next week and talking a little bit about it. So until next week, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.